There we go. Hello, I'm Pegge Adams, the president of the local League of Women Voters, and I am so pleased today that Blake Strozier is joining us to give us some perspective on school board elections. Having been a past member for 8 years, I'm sure he has a lot to tell us that'll be really, really helpful. Welcome, Blake. And what can you tell us? Now I'm going to have to start with my last question first. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what can you tell us about yourself and your past work with the school board?
Well, Peggy, first of all, thank you, and to the staff and communities first. This is a wonderful opportunity for me to come on and just give a little bit of insight on the past I've been a part of. I'm a Flint resident, born and raised, came out of Hurley Hospital. My mother still lives in Flint. I still live in Flint. Graduate Flint Northern High School, left, went to A&T, North Carolina, graduated. I want to make sure I say that, graduated. Came back to Flint as a landscape architect, working for Rowe. And actually, a month after I got back in Flint, we had a vacancy on the Flint Board of Education with Jerome Threlkel. And I applied for the position, and I served from June 2011 until December 31st, 2020. So we actually did go through the first part of the pandemic with me on the board. And it was an enriching time for me to give back to my community. I learned a lot of different things, and I also were at the table for a lot of the potential that Flint Community Schools and the students and scholars that are attending Flint Community Schools are at the cusp of. So I'm really excited about public education. I'm really excited for the potential that Flint has. There's so much that's getting ready to happen in the next few years with just so much innovation and automation. And to know that Flint was sitting at the table for a lot of those discussions, and that a lot of good people with the Board of Education at the time were there to see and witness it, and to potentially help bring it to fruition, was wonderful for me to be a part of.
Why do you think? What's the importance of school board? Often people don't really vote on the smaller offices, but yet it seems to me this is a very important office.
It's extremely important. Many Fortune 500 companies actually look at the school district that they're getting ready to relocate to, or to actually have a branch office in, and they look and see what are the current testing, what's the current scores, how are they educating students with advanced placement, and even career and vocational technical education. Now, what are some of those things that are innovative that they're doing? So in Flint, we all know that we're an automotive town, and many of our ancestors and grandparents and families migrated up here for the potential of working in General Motors. Well, in today's 21st century, the school district is important, and the school board is important, because not everyone goes to college. Not everyone is going to be, and there are going to be technical educational jobs. And as the school board members are actually a part of the discussion for what programs can be offered, and how we can connect those courses and those academic opportunities to various institutions around, with University of Michigan, Flint, Kettering, Mott. And so it's imperative to know who's on the board. And if I can just say so, Peggy, you have to be informed about it, because you can't just say, well, I like this person, or I marched with this person, or I was a part of the water crisis with this person. I believe they'd be a good candidate for the board, because even though they may have been a good candidate, they may have been a good person for that particular instance, the school district is a different type of responsibility, that you have to be aware of what you're doing, and also aware that every decision you make will have an impact on not just you, but the future students in the Flint community.
Is there training for school board members?
Yes, the Michigan Association of School Board offers training for school board members, and they offer them up to being a certified board member. Taking advantage of those courses when people are elected are always available. They offer them through the GISD, but mostly through the Michigan Association of School Board Members. So there are classes, and they teach you from finance, selecting a superintendent, identifying advanced placement courses, the benefits of year-round or even section off courses for um, career and vocational technical education. There are classes that teach the school board members what to do and how to operate to be effective.
Is it mandatory?
They are not mandatory. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of board members in some communities that don't even take advantage of those. I took advantage of them when I was available. As a matter of fact, I think I was only 2 or 3 classes short of being a certified board member. But I was one of those that was advocate for making sure you have those courses, because we're just walking onto the school board and just saying, this is how I run my house like this, the school district ran like this. That's not how it's done. Being a person that's been the treasurer of the board for 2 years, I remember that there's, in some cases where it's a balancing act. We don't, the district will never carry, $40 million in the bank at one time. $40 million comes in, $40 million goes back out. And I'm using this as a reference, but it's, it's not balancing your checkbook at home. It's actually making sure that other areas are taken care of. And you get those instructions from training from the Michigan Association of School Board Members.
Are there many people who elect not to take the courses, like on the Flint School Board? What was your perception there? Did it seem like everyone took them, or were there some people who didn't, or were there a number of people who didn't?
I would be honest, there were board members, and I don't want to name names, there were board members that took the classes, but they didn't use them to the best resources they could. And then there were board members that just, I remember in my last meeting as a board member, I remember walking past certain board members, and I was encouraging them to do it. And they were basically like, that was the old way, but there's a new system of doing things now. And I still believe that ignoring those courses can be detrimental to the development and the progress of the district, because you need to know what your role is. Anyone can say what your role will be. Anyone can say what your role is going to be when you're running. When I get on the school board, we're going to do this, we're going to rebuild this, we're going to do this. But sitting in those courses and getting the instructions lets you know how far your reach is, and also that you are a board of 7. The superintendent is hired to run the district. You give him the authority to run the district. You can't micromanage him. And micromanaging boards are oftentimes why you have a high turnover of superintendents, because the superintendent will come in, and instead of allowing him to do his job, the board will say, well, I want every dollar that you spent to be itemized. I need to know when you're going to the bathroom. I need to know when you're doing this and when you're doing that. And if you don't tell me, we're going to have a meeting and we're going to discuss it and we're going to bring it to the table and we're going to vote you out. And superintendents, they say, you know what, forget it. I'd rather not even be here. And in Flint, we've had a bad turnover. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're on our 7th or 8th superintendent in just 12 years. Most superintendents last 3 to 5 years on the low end, 7 to 12 years on the high end. And I think in the past 10, 11, 12 years, our superintendents have not lasted longer than 3 years. Speaking right now, we have a current superintendent who's been in place, and he's doing a great job, a wonderful job. But a couple months ago, we had another superintendent. Before that, we had another superintendent with Dr. Derek Lopez. So, that's 3 superintendents from the pandemic until now. Before him, there was Gregory Witherspoon. Before him, it was Bilal Tawal. Before him, it was Larry Watkins. Before Larry Watkins, it was Linda Thompson. So that's right there shows that unless you have a board that understands their roles, you can kind of have a helter-skelter board where it just goes off the rails.
So what role does the school board serve?
Policy. The board directs policy for what is done in Flint Community Schools. And it's important that policy is implemented. It's also important that bills are paid, of course, but most of those bills are paid through the policy that's developed through the board. So you give the superintendent the latitude to do his job through policy, and then he brings back to you information and action items to vote on. But it's basically through policy that the board operates. So if there's policy in place to address something, the board has to have the wherewithal to do it, but also to give the superintendent or his designee the latitude to make the informed decision and get it done.
Well, How many, you said there are 7 members on the board, is that correct?
Yes, 7 members.
How long are those terms?
So when I first got on, they were 4-year terms. Now they are 6-year terms. And of course, leading up to it, we were kind of disagreeing about it because 6 years is a long time. And, I did a 6-year term. And one of the main reasons why I was pretty much not trying to run for re-election in 2020 was because at the time I was 32. And I knew that 6 more years to be 38. And I knew running again would put me into my mid 40s. And I did not want to have my entire adult life to be on the school board. I wanted to make sure that there was representation that came from a new voice. When I got on the board, I thought I was the liberal, we're going to do this, we're going to turn this city around, and we're going to do it through this. And then I watched, and I became along with Harold Woodson and Betty Ramsdale, we became the wise, not conservative, but the wise, consistent voice of the board. And it came from understanding that you can't just jump off the cliff. You have to make plans to make sure that things are in place for the development to happen in Flint. And so, 6 years is a long time. And I encourage any board member that has the time to value family first. Understand that you're going to be doing this. There are going to be long nights. There are going to be days where you're going to have a session on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, come back Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's going to be contentious sometimes, but also understanding that it's going to pay off. Even today, as I sit here in Charlotte, I'm confident that the services that we did, 2 years ago when I left, the 10 years that I served, I know that we did a good job. We did the work and we made sure that our students were taken care of.
Thank you. Let's see here. What do you think is the biggest challenge right now that they face?
You want me to give one, or you want me to just go for it?
No, go for it. Whatever, whatever.
I think there are a few. A few of the ones that I can get off the top of my head right now is, I believe that the biggest is, of course, enrollment, the decline, making sure that we provide services and instruction that is meaningful. Listening to students past say that, why am I in a French 2 class and I have no intention of taking French beyond, what I had to do for the state of Michigan. Making sure that our students are actually taught to what they have a desire to do after they leave here. I want to go to college. My intent after I left Northern was to go to college, but there are people who I know who want to be barbers, they want to go into cosmetology, they want to go into auto mechanics, they want to go into HVAC, design. And, that's something that we can provide in our schools. So teaching not just what's in the book, but teaching to make sure that they have a trade or a skill or something that will go beyond what they have right now. And so, and that can make Flint unique because right now we do have the what I call the Skills Center, but the Genesee Career Institute. We do have that, but the question that we have is, where do we go after students are in place? The second thing I would say, as far as with the issue, would be, you cannot expect children to act like adults if the adults act like children. And right now, I believe that our board acts more out of impulse and less out of actually being founded in doing what's right. I don't like you because I don't like you. I'm going to disagree and cause havoc and cause hell. And I think that's the wrong position to be in. So the other thing I would say is, on top of that, I would say that the other thing to deal with is our infrastructure buildings. We have a lot of buildings that are not conducive to what we need them to be right now. And then when you see the buildings in the Culture Center and around Lake Fenton, and even the renovations that are being done in Hamady, Those are areas that we could actually do a lot, but they're not really going and helping a lot of people with the current status that they are in. So I think those are some of the biggest things right there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your insights. Is there anything we might have missed here that voters might need to think about when they're trying to evaluate who to choose for a school board member?
Don't vote your friends. And I mean this with the most honesty. Don't vote your friends. I told my friends when I was running for the school board, I said, look, if you don't like me or if you would rather me not be on the board, that's fine. Vote for me because you know that I'm going to make an impact, not because we marched together or because we were friends in high school, but because we actually believe that I can make an impact. And right now, I believe that there are some board members that are more based on themselves and not on these students. And you can say these students and you can call yourself whoever you want to be, but unless it's really about the students' development and making them better. I talked to some of the graduates who graduated this past year, and to be completely honest with you, Ms. Peggy, they are disgusted by what some board members have done in the past. Just because you say you are student-centered doesn't mean you are student-centered. And that's the biggest thing that I find is that oftentimes we say it, but it's not really in our heart. So I would encourage any member, any resident of the city of Flint that will tune into this broadcast and just say, vote based on what someone's platform is and not based on your relationship. If they're saying these are the programs and policies that I think we need to be successful in Flint, evaluate them, look them over, read up on them, do your due diligence. Don't just vote because, well, I like this person or I marked this person. Or I remember when we were down at the state capitol and they told me they were going to turn Flint around. Turn Flint around for where and what direction is the question I have when people say they're going to turn Flint around. So I'm just very cautious, and I would encourage anyone just to do their research.
Well, thank you so much, Blake. Appreciate that. Thanks for joining us today. I'm sure that the voters are going to appreciate your insights, and it'll help them to figure out who to choose, because very often people neglect the school board because they just don't know where to start in terms of figuring out what they need to look at. So thank you so much.
No problem, Peggy. Thank you.